At 19, I spent weeks scouring Craigslist for my first car. My mom grew tired of chauffeuring me to work daily, and I had about $6,000 saved up. Reluctant to exhaust my savings, I sought something reliable, resistant to immediate breakdowns. Eventually, I found a 2010 Honda Civic with 45,000 miles, priced at $4,500. Intrigued, I texted the seller expressing interest. He promptly called. "Hello," I answered after a couple of rings, trying not to appear too eager. We conversed briefly about the car. I inquired if he would accept less than $4,500. "Maybe we could discuss the price later," he replied, implying flexibility. Taking it as a yes, I planned to haggle down to $4,000 or pay $4,000 cash. We arranged to meet at his place the next day at 6:30 p.m. Unable to secure a ride with friends, I reluctantly enlisted my mom's help. Luckily, she adjusted her schedule, and we set off. As we neared the destination, the neighborhood deteriorated, litter strewn across, homeless people at every corner. Anxiety crept in. I wished my dad accompanied us. Nevertheless, I masked my fear for my mom's sake. Arriving, the house resembled its rundown neighbors, an abandoned aura emanating. Despite my apprehension, we pulled into the driveway. I approached the door, signaling to my mom to stay in the car, her hand on the locks. Knocking on the screen door, I heard yelling from within, followed by a barking dog. The man invited me in, assuring the dog's restraint. Nervously, I gestured to my mom before stepping inside, a decision I would later regret. Inside, I encountered the man, shirtless and disheveled. The stench of dog feces permeated the air. Politely, I inquired about the car. "Follow me to the back," he beckoned, leading me through the house to the garage. Spotting the Civic, we discussed its condition and price. When I proposed a $4,000 cash offer pending a test drive, he refused, insisting on payment first. Disappointed, I declared my disinterest. Suddenly, he erupted into screams. Simultaneously, I heard my mom's panicked cries from outside. Sprinting to her aid, I saw a horrifying scene unfold. Two men attempted to forcibly enter the car, shattering a window in the process. With my pocket knife, I intervened, injuring one and warding off the other. In a frenzy, my mom and I fled, shaken to the core. That day taught me a valuable lesson: always carry protection. Several years ago, I moved into a new house, which I was quite pleased about. It was affordable, and with my decent income and low expenses, life seemed manageable. Although the yard wasn't spacious, I still needed a budget-friendly push mower. I didn't fancy spending a couple $100s on a new one, so I turned to Craigslist, hoping to snag a deal. After some searching, I found a few promising listings. I called one seller who seemed amiable and conveniently located. Without delay, I hopped into my truck and headed over. Upon arrival, I knocked on the front door and waited briefly. The garage door on the other side of the house started opening, so I made my way over. As the door ascended, revealing the seller halfway through the garage, we exchanged greetings and exchanged a few pleasantries. The garage appeared typical, filled with bikes, tools, and assorted items. Yet, there was no sign of the mower. I assumed he'd have it ready, knowing I was coming soon, but I brushed off the thought and asked to see the mower. "Of course," he replied. "I'll grab it. Just hang tight." With that, he disappeared back into the house, leaving me waiting. After a few minutes of idling, I grew impatient. Left without my phone, I aimlessly wandered around, trying to distract my restless mind. It was then that I stumbled upon a laminated picture near the fridge, partially concealed. Curiosity piqued. I reached for it, intending to return it to its rightful place. However, what I saw turned my stomach. The picture depicted a deceased woman in a bathtub, alarmingly real. My immediate reaction was to flee. As I turned to leave, the garage door began closing, triggering a panic dash to escape. Thankfully, I made it out unscathed, albeit with a hasty exit. Just as I was about to jump into my truck, the seller emerged with the mower. "Leaving so soon? Don't you want the mower?" he asked. Inexplicably, I hesitated, stepping out of my truck and feigning interest. Sensing my unease, he inquired if I was all right. Anxiously, I assured him I was fine, eager to conceal my discovery. Yet his behavior seemed off, as if he knew something was amiss. "Why did the garage door close?" I questioned, attempting to mask my growing unease. He dismissed it casually, attributing it to the house's age. Then, with a chuckle, he joked about ghosts, attempting to lighten the mood. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked beneath the surface. Upon inspecting the mower he presented, I noticed it differed from the one advertised online, a glaring discrepancy in brand and color. His feeble attempts to gaslight me only confirmed my suspicions. Realization dawned that I had stumbled into a disturbing situation. His sudden outburst, demanding I leave if I wasn't buying anything, spurred me to flee. Racing back to my truck, I didn't look back, consumed by a mounting sense of panic. The fear that I had encountered a potential serial killer gnawed at me, leaving me shaken to the core. Upon reaching home, I immediately contacted the police, but they deemed it insufficient for a search warrant, leaving me to grapple with the unsettling encounter alone. Night enveloped me as I sat at my desk, browsing Craigslist ads in search of a roommate. With bills accumulating, I needed someone to share the burden. Despite my apprehensions, I posted an ad seeking a suitable housemate. Responses poured in, but one email stood out. From a man named Jonathan, it exuded politeness and courtesy. After exchanging emails, we arranged to meet at a nearby coffee shop. Approaching the cafe, nerves prickled at my skin. Tales of Craigslist encounters gone awry flitted through my mind, but I pushed them aside, determined to find a reliable roommate. Jonathan greeted me with a warm smile, his demeanor pleasant but tinged with an unsettling intensity. We discussed our living arrangements, and he appeared enthusiastic about moving in. As weeks passed, Jonathan settled into the apartment, keeping mostly to himself. Yet, a subtle unease lingered, punctuated by odd occurrences, a faint whisper in the night, misplaced objects, and an inexplicable feeling of being watched. One evening, curiosity overcame my apprehension, leading me to investigate Jonathan's room. What I discovered within sent shivers down my spine: a journal filled with disturbing entries, a testament to a troubled mind. My intrusion didn't go unnoticed. Jonathan confronted me with a chilling smile, revealing his true nature. Fear gripped me as I realized the danger I had invited into my home. In a desperate bid for escape, I fled, wounded but alive. With the help of the police, Jonathan was apprehended, his arrest a grim confirmation of my worst fears. Recovering from the physical and emotional scars, I vowed to remain vigilant, knowing that darkness can lurk even in the most ordinary of places. Night weighed heavily upon me as I sat at my desk, scrolling through Craigslist ads. Desperation gripped me, the bills piled up, and I couldn't shoulder the burden alone anymore. It was a mix of hesitation and hope as I crafted a post seeking a compatible housemate. Within hours, my inbox flooded with responses. One message stood out, an email from a man named Jonathan. He seemed polite, his words carefully chosen. After exchanging emails, we agreed to meet at a nearby coffee shop. Arriving at the cafe, nerves tingled through me. Despite tales of Craigslist encounters gone wrong, I pushed those thoughts aside, determined to find a reliable roommate. Spotting Jonathan at a corner table, I approached cautiously. His warm smile somewhat eased my unease as we settled into a booth, enveloped by the coffee shop's noise. Jonathan spoke softly, his voice smooth like velvet. He shared about his job as a graphic designer, his hobbies, and his love for reading. While seemingly harmless, there was something about his demeanor that unsettled me. His friendly eyes held an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. We discussed apartment details, establishing boundaries and rules. Jonathan appeared eager to move in, and despite my lingering doubts, I trusted my instincts. Days turned into weeks, and Jonathan settled in, spending most of his time in his room. However, unsettling occurrences began to plague the apartment: whispers in the night, misplaced objects, and an eerie sensation of being watched. Dismissing them initially, I eventually succumbed to curiosity, investigating Jonathan's room one evening. Opening his door revealed a dimly lit room filled with peculiar objects: old photographs, an antique knife, and a worn-out journal. Flipping through the journal, I was met with chilling poetry and disturbing sketches, a window into a troubled mind. A low voice broke the silence, freezing me in place. Jonathan stood in the doorway, his once warm eyes now dark and unsettling. "You shouldn't have snooped around my room," he hissed, his words slithering through the air. As fear gripped me, I realized the danger I had unwittingly invited into my home. With adrenaline coursing through me, I fled towards the door, my hands fumbling to unlock it. A sharp pain pierced my shoulder as I stumbled into the hallway, blood staining my shirt. Flagging down a passing car, I sought help, the police arriving soon after. They revealed Jonathan's dark past, already a wanted criminal for heinous acts of violence. Days turned into weeks as I recovered, finding solace in a new home far from the haunting memories. The ordeal served as a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in the unknown, urging me to remain vigilant always. I don't like searching for jobs, I said, but my parents made me do it. Why don't you enjoy it, my dad asked. I was 18.5 years old, with my birthday coming in about 6 months. I continued. My mom and dad used to joke that when I turn 20 I have to leave. That's just a joke, sweetheart, my mom reassured me. They care about me, but they are very strict, I explained. Getting a job would make them happy and make them less strict, so I thought it was a good idea. I understand, my dad nodded. It's important to take responsibility. My dad told me to look for jobs on websites like Facebook, CRAIGSLIST, or even in the local newspaper, I said. I chose CRAIGSLIST because it seemed easier. Reading a newspaper felt old-fashioned to me. I agree, my mom chimed in. Times have changed. I looked on CRAIGSLIST for a job, I continued, and after a lot of searching I found one at a Chinese restaurant. A job. That's great news, my dad exclaimed. But it wasn't to be a chef or a waitress, I explained. It was for a job called dish hand. I didn't really know what that meant at first. Sounds interesting, my mom commented. So I clicked on the job ad, I said, and there was a short description. Basically, it was about washing dirty dishes and making them clean and ready to use again. That's hard work, my dad remarked. Indeed, I agreed. I was a shy 18-year-old girl, so I asked my dad to contact the owner through the CRAIGSLIST ad. That's a good idea, my mom nodded. They had left a name and a phone number, I explained, and they wanted to know if you had any experience and how old you were. That's understandable, my dad said. But I told my dad, I continued, isn't it funny that a dish hand job requires experience in washing dishes? Indeed, it is, my dad chuckled, but it's good to be prepared. My dad called them, I said, and about 2 days later we set up a meeting. That's fast, my mom remarked. We went there during the daytime when the restaurant was closed, I continued. When we got there, they opened the door for us. Polite of them, my dad noted. There was a lady and a man inside, I described. I think they were married, and they looked like they were in their mid-60s. Nice couple, my mom commented. They unlocked the door and let my dad and me inside, I said. The restaurant was really nice. It had a lot of decorations, flowers on the walls, and even old Chinese pictures and things. Sounds lovely, my mom said. We sat at one of the tables where people usually eat, I continued. We started talking, but it was tough to understand their way of speaking. I can imagine my dad sympathized. My dad did most of the talking, I explained, and I just sat there feeling shy. It's okay, dear, my mom comforted me. Sometimes it was awkward because their Chinese accent was really strong, I said. When the man asked me something, I had to say sorry because I couldn't understand him. That must have been challenging, my mom said. But I got the job, I said, and as time went on, it became easier to understand them. That's good to hear, my dad smiled. I'm not sure if it was because I got used to their way of speaking or because I had been with their family for about a month. By then I continued. Probably a bit of both, my mom suggested. They were a nice elderly couple, I said. They used to talk to each other in Mandarin, a language I didn't understand. How interesting, my dad remarked. When they spoke to me or asked me to do something, I explained, they used simple English with strong accents. Communication is key, my mom nodded. But I grew to like the family, I said. They were friendly and treated me well. That's wonderful, my dad said. I know washing dishes isn't a great job, I admitted, but sometimes you have to start at the bottom. That's right, my mom agreed. It's all about gaining experience. And that's what my dad taught me, I concluded. Your dad's a wise man, my mom smiled. I worked for about 5 to 6 hours each day, I said. I started in the evening and finished around midnight. That's quite a shift, my dad noted. Sometimes I began work at 7 p.m., sometimes at 6 p.m. I continued, but it was never earlier than 6 p.m. Late hours, my mom sympathized. They would call me on my phone when they needed me, I explained. Trying to understand them over the phone was even more challenging. I can imagine, my dad said. Most of the people working there were from the same family, I said, so I felt like I didn't quite fit in, like I was different. That can be tough, my mom acknowledged. But still, they were friendly to me, I added. That's good to hear, my dad said. As time passed, a new guy joined our team, I continued. I'm not sure if he was a chef, but he started cooking the food right away. A new addition, my mom observed. I think he had experience because he knew how to cook the dishes really well from the beginning, I said. Maybe he had worked at another Chinese restaurant before. That's possible, my dad agreed. He wasn't Chinese like the others, I explained. He was American like me. But there was something strange about him. Strange, my mom asked. He didn't talk to anyone much, I said, and he often had a creepy smile on his face. That sounds unsettling, my dad commented. But he also seemed very shy, I added. Like he had a really hard time talking to people. Poor guy, my mom sympathized. The problem with my job as a dishwasher was that I had a lot of fun, I confessed. Fun, my dad raised an eyebrow. Every time once I finished washing the dishes, I explained, the owner didn't want me to work out in the front of the restaurant. Why not, my mom wondered. And I definitely couldn't cook the food, I said. Honestly, I wasn't good at cooking anything. Not even simple stuff like beans on toast. It's okay, my dad reassured me. You'll learn with time. That's true, my mom agreed. Practice makes perfect. Once all the dishes were done, I found myself waiting. Beside the sink, I kept the soapy water and suds ready, changing it every hour depending on its dirtiness or the number of plates to wash. The sink provided ample space for maneuvering and accommodating numerous plates and silverware at once. During breaks, I remained in the kitchen, avoiding the door at the back where family members often went out to smoke, a habit I didn't partake in. Instead, I'd lean against the sink with my phone in hand, engaging in conversation with the family. I grew particularly close to the owner's son and daughter, who were around my age, perhaps 21 or 22. Given their better grasp of English and shared proximity to my high school, I felt a stronger connection with them. However, there was a new guy whose name remained a mystery to me. He seldom interacted with anyone. I couldn't comprehend why the owner hired him. Eventually, my curiosity overwhelmed me, prompting me to inquire with the owner's son. According to him, the new guy had prior connections with someone known to the owner's father, which facilitated his hiring. He also expressed a sense of unease around the new guy, noting his reserved nature and minimal interaction. Despite this, his culinary skills were remarkable, surpassing even the previous chefs. Then, unexpectedly, an incident unfolded one day during the usual restaurant operations. As I diligently washed dishes, a sudden uproar erupted at the front of the restaurant. Though I was merely a dishwasher and not directly involved in customer service or kitchen management, the commotion grew louder, with what sounded like multiple people coughing and struggling to breathe. Story 5. I relocated to San Diego with my parents from Nevada not too long ago. The move was prompted by the need to be closer to my mom's sick parents, who had been unwell for over a year. Dad saw it as an opportunity for a fresh start in San Diego, allowing us to care for them. Both of my parents quickly secured new jobs, drawing on their extensive work experience. Unfortunately, my job hunt wasn't as swift. I endured 6 interviews before finally landing a position at a prominent hotel company. After working there for about 6 months and saving up some money, I decided to peruse CRAIGSLIST for a sea kayak. I'd always harbored a desire to explore the sea and engage in a bit of fishing once I had the appropriate gear. It might sound peculiar, but this hobby had been a recurring interest for me. You could say it was a phase. There was something captivating about being out in the vast ocean on a floating plastic vessel. Despite searching for a kayak for a couple of nights with no success, my luck changed when I stumbled upon a new listing. It featured a yellow kayak, and all the images looked promising. Even better, the owner mentioned selling some fishing gear along with the kayak if there was interest. I reached out to the seller, Jimmy, and arranged to visit the next day. He provided the address and instructed me to come around the back, If no one answered the front door, he'd be in one of the buildings behind the house. The following day, I followed GPS directions to the address, taking about 40 minutes to arrive. I used my dad's car, equipped with a roof rack in anticipation of purchasing the kayak. After confirming the house number as 66, I pulled into the driveway, greeted by an old car porch in a state of disrepair. Several decrepit vehicles cluttered the porch, one conspicuously damaged. As I approached the front door and rang the bell, there was no immediate response. I caught a glimpse of movement behind a half-closed curtain in the upper window, but it ceased when I looked up. With no answer, I rang the bell once more, still receiving no reply. Recalling Jimmy's instructions, I decided to check the buildings behind the house. The first building, resembling a barn, yielded no response to my knocks. Entering, I found boxes and gardening supplies, but no sign of Jimmy. Moving on to the second building, I discovered a padlocked door, which curiously was left open. Despite my attempts to elicit a response, no one answered my calls. Growing frustrated, I pushed open the door and ventured inside. The interior was dim, with only one window offering scant illumination. Fumbling for a light switch proved fruitless, so I resorted to my phone's flashlight. Scanning the room, I failed to locate the sea kayak until my beam settled on a small table in the back. An empty glass sat beside a plate, and an adjacent chair caught my attention, its arms and legs adorned with straps. At the time, I didn't dwell much on it. I was curious, but fear didn't grip me. My primary objective remained finding Jimmy and the sea kayak. The peculiar chair didn't register much in my mind, so I opted to leave. Exiting the building, I made my way towards my parked car beside the house. Suddenly, a muffled sound caught my attention, repeating intermittently. Halting, I scanned my surroundings, attempting to locate the source. As the sound persisted, I traced it to a large hole in the sidewall of the house, seemingly emanating from within. Approaching cautiously, I bent down to listen closely, confirming the sound's origin. Utilizing my phone's light, I peered into the hole, discovering a figure seated in a chair with their back to me, seemingly in an empty room. "Can you hear me through the hole?" I called out. The person inside responded with increasingly desperate sounds. Hastily, I retreated towards my car. Just as I reached it, a weathered red open-back truck pulled into the driveway, accompanied by a burly, disheveled man. Heart racing, adrenaline pumping, I braced myself as he approached. "What are you doing on my land?" he demanded. Thinking quickly, I replied, "I think you're Jimmy. I'm Cody. We talked the other day about me coming over to check out the sea kayak you're selling." He drew closer, refuting my claim. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not selling any kayak. What's the address?" I reiterated. "It's 66 Overdrive Road." I double-checked before I came. His response was swift. "This is number 69. The number 9 sometimes looks like an angled 66. You've got the wrong house. Get off my property right now." Apologizing, I sensed potential danger and swiftly retreated to my car, driving away. Rounding the corner, I dialed 911, relaying the events to the police. They responded promptly, conducting a search of the property. In the basement, they uncovered a room where a woman was bound to a chair, the same woman reported missing 3 days prior. It transpired that the man had abducted her from her workplace parking lot. Providing my statement, the police commended my actions, emphasizing the fortunate error in the address. They underscored the likelihood that the woman owed her life to me. The incident served as a stark reminder that even amidst the strangest circumstances, we can profoundly impact someone's life.